Hello, this is Jesse with Vilo Games. Uh, wanting to, this is my first devlog for an indie game I'm wanting to create in Unreal Engine 5. Um, my intent is to log this journey and hopefully provide some value to some folks out there. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Unreal Engine version 5.1.1. It's the latest release that is not in a preview state. I don't want to um, create my game in a preview state. 5.1.1 is a little bit more of a stable version. So we'll go ahead and launch this. Now, the game I'm wanting to create is a first-person shooter MOBA style game with themes pulling from Dungeons and Dragons, League of Legends, Dota 2. Uh, um, project creation takes a little bit of time the first time through. I'll give it a minute here. This is my Perforce server. I'm going to be saving the game to. I'll be talking more about that later on. But essentially, that's a tool um, you can use to save your game to a server and multiple. If you have multiple developers on your team, you can all work on the same game project files concurrently. So it's pretty useful. Right now, it's mostly me working on the game, but I do have a couple other guys that are uh, experienced dungeon masters um, that will be helping me along this journey. To see what does firewalls, blocks, and features. So I want to allow access to that. That's pretty typical for uh, first time run of a project. It shouldn't ask me that going forward. So first time you compile a project, you see it shows compiling shaders here, 5,300. Once these are compiled, it doesn't have to do that every time. So the load times will be a lot faster. So over the last several months, I've taken some courses on Udemy, so I'm finally ready to take the plunge and start developing the game from scratch, really. Um, now, I'll go ahead and pull up the Epic Games Marketplace while my project compiles the shaders. One thing I really like about the Unreal Engine is the multitude of assets in their marketplace. One thing I'm always looking for is nice free assets. Um, Especially this free for the month. There's always really nice assets coming out every month that you can get for free. As you can see, I've downloaded 4 of the 5 here. Um, Underwater World, some levels. If I go to my library here, you can see I have quite the collection that I've built up over the last few months. And most of these I've gotten for free. I paid for a couple of them. Um, oh, another source of inspiration, apart from League and Dota and Dungeons and Dragons and those sorts of things, is Paragon. Um, so Unreal, or I should say Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite, we're also working on a game project called Paragon, and they released, I think, is millions of dollars worth of free assets. Um, so I will still shamelessly, where it makes sense. So as you can see, I've downloaded a few of them already. I'm doing different tutorials and such. But they've got some really, really nice assets, characters. They also have some nice level assets, meshes, materials. Um, this Agora and Monolith environment's really nice. So a lot of good free stuff. So that was part of the reason why I chose the Unreal Engine. Just a lot of really good high fidelity assets, and I know a little bit of C++, which is what the Unreal Engine game code is based on. But what really sold me was the blueprints, visual scripting. Super easy to use, and it's really nice to work with, especially if you're not a hardcore programmer. Um, it's really low barrier to entry. Unreal Engine's free to use. So Epic Games is really throwing a lot of stuff out there um, for us indie developers to use for free. Um, and I looked at Unity as well. I do like the C# programming language, um, but I spent a few days with Unity, but ended up deciding to go with Unreal. Um, Unity's great, but all I can say is I got better vibes with the Unreal Engine, and that's just me personally. No knock against anyone wanting to use a different gaming engine, of course. This is gonna take a minute. Um, so we can look at some of the assets I do definitely intend to use. So one thing that Epic Games was developing, and I believe they use it with Fortnite now as well, is the gameplay ability system. Um, and it is all in C++. I think they're working on a way to eventually make it some sort of plug-in or open to blueprints. Um, but in the meantime, this guy, MK Labs, created this GAS companion, gas companion. And what he's done is exposed a lot of that gameplay ability system C++ classes. He's exposed those to blueprints. And I was playing around with it a little bit, and it's pretty impressive what he's been able to do. um, so he has a default HUD widget that you can use for health and stamina and mana. There's an ability queue system. Um, but it's really, especially if you're not proficient in C++, this is a really nice tool to hit the ground running with abilities. And for a first-person MOBA, really going to be uh, heavily using abilities, so I'll be leaning on uh, this asset heavily. You can use it as a plugin, or you can just implement it directly on your actor classes, or blueprints, I should say, character blueprints. There's a little bit more information here, but there we go. Ability queue system. So you can use it for attributes, activating abilities, gameplay effects. A lot of good stuff here. There's also this combo graph. I haven't used that, but it's also gameplay ability system. It's powered by that, and I think this could be useful as well, at least for some quick prototyping. I don't know if it'll end up being in the final revision of the game, but this could be really helpful as well. So if you have a really good CPU, this would go a little bit faster. I have an i5, mid-range i5 CPU, so it's going to take it a little bit of time there, which is fine. I can wait, I'm patient. But here's some of the assets I've downloaded over the months in anticipation for some of these were for little projects or courses, but a lot of them I added to my library here in anticipation for this game. Like this guy here, I feel like maybe a good mini boss in a jungle area or something. That'd be pretty intimidating to fight first person. Got some pickups. Got some different weapons here. I've been really impressed with Unreal Engine's Niagara effects. So here's some pretty cool levitation effects that would look really good in a game. A lot of foliage and forest asset packs could look really nice. I also have several of those. I got some dash effects here. Those look really nice. Here's a free pirate asset that I downloaded. One of the characters I have in mind for the game um, is a pirate. I don't know if this will be the final asset I use, but definitely a good start. As a prototype. I've played around with it a little bit, uh, and it works fairly nicely. Got some vaulting mechanics here. I may use some of the logic here for perhaps a vaulting ability. I'm thinking as far as movement goes, for the characters, they'll all have sort of very default uh, movement capabilities. Maybe the most advanced movement you have by default is a move and jump. If you have any special vaulting or um, climbing, those would be abilities specific to that hero or character. Um, and I do intend for it to be uh, a 5v5 scenario with NPC hordes clashing. Uh, and I think your traditional uh, MOBA support, mid lane, um, jungle, um, duo lanes, all of that. I think I'll want to incorporate all of that so there's elements of familiarity. The first person's really and high fidelity, high-ish fidelity is going to be kind of the hook or gimmick or whatever you want to call it. I think a lot of them are top down or third person. Um, so having first person will give a different perspective, I think, to that style of game. And I think it has the potential to be a really cool, fun experience. Um, you know, being in the mid lane or in the jungle with your friends trying to take down a big bad boss, looking up at a boss and getting ganked by some other guys, the enemy team. Um, just in a first person, I think it'd provide a unique, cool experience. Okay, 2500. What else? I could show maybe my idea for what the map layout will look like. Moment here to find that picture. So here's maybe an inspiration for level design. I just found this Googling MOBA maps, but you have some multi levels here, which I think could add a good dynamic, especially for a first person viewpoint. So you're using the terrain a lot more for line of sight elements. I think something like this could be a lot of fun. Looking it over, I think this could be balanced a little bit better. So I think there's definitely some elements of unbalance happening here, maybe in this area for sure. But something like this, I think, could work really well and be fun. Um, so this will be a multiplayer networked game. I've taken a couple of courses on Udemy that talks about Unreal Engine's replication systems, and it's pretty advanced. Unreal Engine has a lot of multiplayer capabilities right out of the box, um, especially for dedicated servers. So essentially, it's almost as simple as checking a replication tick box on certain assets, um, and it gets replicated across to all the clients. And it's really nice to work with. There's some settings right out of the box too. You could basically test as a listen or a dedicated server within the editor itself. And through this devlog, we'll look at all of that. Didn't anticipate this taking quite so long. So this is also my first live stream ever, so I don't anticipate this video getting very many views, if any. So hopefully I can calm my nerves a little bit and think about what I want to say and be able to set up these videos a little bit nicer every time. But I just wanted to start doing this thing. That way I get the experience and get comfortable and get good at doing these live streams as I'm developing. Because, I work full time, so I only have a couple hours at night that I can spend working on this game. And live streaming or creating videos or whatever. But I could see one day, having this hobby turn into something more. I've always enjoyed playing games, creating games. My favorite game ever to this day is Warcraft 3. I spent a lot of time in the Warcraft 3 world editor creating custom maps, scripts, different things, and hosting custom games online, playing those games with random strangers and showcasing my work. And that was so much fun. But that was over 10 years ago. I've spent the last 10 years in a grown-up job. But with all of these tools and resources out, I'd be a fool to look past a tool like Unreal Engine or Unity that are out there for free. So the barrier to entry for game development is the lowest it's ever been. So I've spent the last few months, a couple hours a day, sometimes just 1 hour, but I've always tried to make it a point to get a little bit of learning in. And I've learned a lot. I'm not saying I'm a pro at this, but I have learned a lot, and I'll continue to learn in these live streams. And just enjoy myself and hopefully build over the next several months, hopefully build, a little bit of a following or a community, I'll want to provide some value to you guys as I develop. But my main focus is developing at the end of the day, and making a good experience, and hopefully I can learn to do that in a way that's interesting. Or at least informative. So 832, we're getting close. So when this loads, I want to do a few things. I have some editor preferences I like, and I'll share that with you guys. I'll get it set up on the Perforce server, which, from what I understand, is the industry standard when you have multiple people on your team working on the same project files. It allows for concurrent work. So what'll happen, Unreal Engine is typically you work on blueprints. You're working in blueprints, and the Perforce has a checkout system, so you can check out a file and lock it out while you're working on it. So you're not overwriting someone else's work, and you can be working on two different blueprints concurrently within the same group of project files. So it's really nice. I just want to get in the habit of using it if my team ever does grow. Um, but even beyond that, it's a backup of my game files. It's on the cloud on a server, but I also will hold the files locally on my computer, um, and that's called a workspace in Perforce. It's also a good idea every now and then just to throw a good old-fashioned copy on your Google Drive. Have a backup of your backup, especially something that you put a lot of work into. You want to have good backup system, good backup strategy. Also, I'll show you a couple of tricks for reducing the file sizes just a little bit. There's 2 or 3 folders that you can delete right off the bat when you're backing something up. First of all, you can compress the files, and you can delete a few folders if space is a constraint for you. You can do that because those files will be regenerated when you load the project, so it's not a problem. And hopefully I can show you a new way to create a first-person character. I've seen 3 or 4 different ways to do it. Out of the ways I've seen, I have a preferred way. Ooh, nice. Looks like we're loaded up here. So I'm gonna go to games. I am tempted to start it in Blueprint since I know that's 99% of what I'm going to be using. However, I think I'm going to start it in C++, just so right off the bat, in case there are any C++ modules I want to add, it's already ready. Now, whether you're in Blueprint or whether you start in C++, you can always go back and add Blueprint, and vice versa. If you're in C++, you can still add Blueprint modules. From my limited experience, I think it's easier to go this way. It's easier to add blueprints than it is to add C++ to blueprints, but I think those differences are minimal. So I'll go ahead and start with C++. That way I have those code files generated already. Maximum quality. I'll probably delete it later, but just so I have some interesting things to look at right off the bat, I will start out with some starter content. And even though this is going to end up being a first person, I'll go ahead and start with the third person template. I'll end up deleting all of this pretty early on, but it's like I said, it's just a nice to look at thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and name a project Vilo Game. I'm gonna change the location of where my main project files are going to be saved, and the reason for that is because of my Perforce server. I have a very specific location on where that workspace is going to be saved. And that will be under users. I have a Perforce folder here, and my depot is going to be here in the Vilo game folder. So I'll go ahead and select this folder. And that's where these game files will be located locally. So as soon as I create this game, I will make sure I'm connected to my source control, which is Perforce. So I'll go ahead and hit create. And my target platform is desktop. Give it just a moment here. This should load much faster now that majority of the shaders are compiled. It's taking its time as well. And again, I think it's mostly at this point, it's my CPU holding me up. I'll prove that theory by opening up my task manager here. Well, actually, it's not too bad. I have a decent graphics card. Just curious. I'll leave this up just so I can see. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So since I created this with C++ in mind, it will start up Visual Studios. You do need that installed initially. When you create a C++ based game. And when you install Visual Studios, you'll want to make sure you have the Unreal Engine C++ package installed as well, as one of the checks. But there's tutorials out there on how to get Visual Studio set up for Unreal Engine. So I highly suggest you follow those if that's what you're interested in. There's some good C++ tutorials on Udemy. I highly recommend. Um, I highly recommend, even if you're not planning on using C++, like in my case, I still took a C++ Unreal Engine course just so I was familiar and aware um, kind of with where these C++ files and header files went and how you add new classes and those sorts of things. So I have an awareness of that. I'm really good at copy and pasting. It push comes to shove, I could build something from scratch. It would just take me a really long time. I could do it much faster in Blueprint. I'm much more comfortable with Blueprint. Um, and the argument for using C++ over Blueprint is usually performance. A lot of experienced programmers will tell you it's used to handle more of the low-level programming. Um, I get it. That makes sense. But for me and my experience level, um, I'll I'll lean more heavily on the blueprint side for sure. My CPU usage bumped up to 100%. So let's see what the Unreal Engine must be doing something. I've never seen this before. This is my first time running Unreal Engine version 5.1. I was running version 5.0, so that may be a reason for this. So this project attempted to launch DirectX 12. Okay, so I think some of these Nanite and Virtual Shadow map updates were new. I believe they're new features in 5.1. So I don't think it will hurt anything. There's maybe, and this is just specific to my system. So if you have a newer setup, you may not have that problem at all. This directional light thing is new. I'm not used to this. I'm kind of curious. Move camera here. Ooh, that's interesting. Oh, I see. Okay. So that moved me way out here. So what I'll do, I'm gonna press F and zoom back over here. So F stands for focus. If you select something in your outliner tab here, and press F, you can focus to that. So that's a really handy tool if you get lost somewhere. So I'm going to right click and I can kind of look around. Use my E key to go up, my W key, WASD to move around. So this is what the third person starter map looks like. I can hit play in editor, So this is uh, Pi, play in editor. Then the selected viewport. This is my viewport. I'm just gonna hit play right here, and I'll start. Don't look pretty because my shaders are still compiling. There we go. Um, so with the third-person starter kit, Unreal Engine throws in some movement and jump features and a nice-looking mannequin here. So pretty nice of them to do that just so right off the bat you feel like you've done something, even though I have literally done nothing. Have some physics attached to these blue boxes here, so a little bit of interaction. That's cool. That's neat. So I can hit escape, or I could before. What is going on? Is there something wrong with my keyboard? I'm gonna press Shift F1 and hit stop. Oh, do I have to hit Shift Escape now? That's new. In the previous version of Unreal Engine, you could just hit Escape. Now you have to hit Shift Escape to exit play mode. So that's an interesting choice. I never really had an issue with that. So that's interesting that they did that. I'm not really in game development yet. I do have a big boy job working manufacturing. Sure, I'll help you, Unreal Engine. So I mentioned setting up some editor preferences. So I'm going to edit, go to editor preferences. So my absolute favorite of all time editor preference is something called save on compile. Typically on success only, but I like to do always. I compile a lot in the editor. And instead of clicking two buttons, I can just hit compile and it will also save the asset or save the blueprint. So that's a really nice feature. I'm having trouble remembering what it's called. Oh, okay. So draw midpoint arrows and blueprints. I like that too. It's not super necessary, but it makes the blueprints look a little bit, you can understand the flow a little bit better. So I like having that checked. Again, that's just a preference of mine. There's tons and tons and tons of other um, settings, and there's probably some that I've found that I've forgotten about. But those are two that I really like to use. Um, I when I was doing a lot of C++ courses, I did enable live coding, um, which is essentially it lets you compile your C++ code in editor without closing down your editor all the time. So that was really nice. Um, so I'll give you, ooh, what is going on? So content drawer should still be space control space bar. Okay, sorry about that. So we have some content loaded in here. Uh, don't really need Microsoft Visual Studios for some reason. It's using up a lot of CPU and memory, and I'm not going to use it for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. You can still work in the editor with that closed, so that's not particularly necessary. Um, so again, I mentioned this is going to be a multiplayer game. A lot of my testing I want to do with Steam. So there's a few things you need to do to have your game um, work with Steam. So I will start doing those things. So the first thing is I need to go to Edit, go to Plugins, and I need to enable the Steam plugin, specifically the online subsystem Steam. So essentially what this is a plugin created by Epic Games, um, and it's a subsystem, meaning we tell the Unreal editor engine what we want to do, and they handle talking to Steam, which is nice. I believe they also do that for, I wonder if they have an Xbox or PlayStation or, yeah, so I'm not for sure. But they have plugins that'll talk to consoles and other things. But while we're in the plugins, I know I'm going to want some other uh, plugins, Gameability System. But I've just remembered I need to copy that folder over into my game project files. So I'm going to go ahead and restart now. Yeah, it doesn't like my graphics card. It works fine, but it wants to throw up that error and complain. So this time around, the loading should be much, much quicker since those shaders were compiled the first time. Okay. So the other thing we need to do is in my game folder here, I'll go ahead and navigate to that. It's going to be in C drive, users. This is where I stored my game files. So in my config folder, you're going to notice you have several config files. So in the default engine, you're going to want to add some information to allow you to connect to the Steam subsystem. So I'm just Googling something here. One moment. Just a second here. Okay, so I went to the Unreal Engine documentation, online subsystem Steam. We're here to the left, and here is the code or the configurations we need to copy into our default engine.ini. And we'll just paste that into the end of this file. Actually, I think I will be using sessions. So I'm going to uncomment this. That's what that semicolon was for. And say b init server on client equals true. I will save this. So we've enabled the Steam subsystem plugin. We've configured our default engine.ini. Can't help but think I'm forgetting something. Okay. So typically you would have to package the project to be able to see if you're connecting to Steam. But one thing you can do is click those three dots here and click on standalone game. Save that. And it should run a standalone game process that will connect to Steam if it's set up properly. There may be one other thing I have to do if this doesn't work, but we'll see. Just a moment here. Okay, so if you notice in the bottom right hand corner, we are connecting to Steam. So that worked. So that is fantastic. So one thing you'll notice is that it shows we are playing Space War, and that is the default game that Steam uses for developers. So if you ever see anyone playing something called Space War, they're probably just working on Steam connection with their game they're developing. So you do need an active Steam session running on your computer to test this. And that's a step towards multiplayer, right? You want to be connected to the Steam subsystem. So that's great that that's working. So I'm gonna hit Shift Escape now. Oh, actually, I need to hit Windows. Just close out of that. Okay, excellent. Um, so I've made some changes. I've got my level going here. I want to try to connect to my source control. If I look down here at the bottom right, I have a source control is disabled. So I'm going to try connecting to a source control. Source control provider is going to be Perforce. Um, it defaulted to my server address. You select your username and your workspace. You check for available workspaces. I am logged into, that's Perforce admin. I am logged in to my P4V here. So this is what is where my server files are. Here's my depot. So I want to connect to this source control. Select this workspace. If you want to learn more about that, there's some pretty good tutorials out there on how to set that up. But that's not what I'll be doing today. Go ahead and close out of this. One thing I do want to do is I do want to get this updated with the latest files. Project creation. And one other good thing is you can kind of see a history of your work as you upload. So that's really nice. There we go. So these are the latest files in my workspace here. So I don't necessarily need every single file. So here's an example of the folders you would want from your Unreal Engine game, because you don't want to save your saved files and different things, because that just has like editor preferences and things. And if other people are working out of this depot, you don't want to download new saved preferences every single time to your Unreal Engine, and some other issues. So I will find a way to do binaries, big content, plugins would be one. Looks like we do need a p4 nor file in here. So I'm just going to copy this. Paste it in here. Refresh that. We can submit some binaries, config, content. I don't have plugins yet. I do want some plugins though. So what I'll do, I want to add there is a plugin that I would like to add for multiplayer purposes. This is a multiplayer plugin that I created on one of my C++ courses. It's really nice for testing multiplayer. So I'll go ahead and get that done. A little bit of the boring stuff out of the way. Bear with me. To find where I saved that at. Recreate from scratch. Take two. This needs to be called plugins. that's about an hour into the live stream. I'll get this multiplayer plugin working. And tomorrow, I think I'll start working on the new first-person character blueprint just a little bit. Get the meshes working nice, and then go from there. So, thanks everybody. Have a good night.